So thank you for joining the Coffee Break Live. I'm super excited that you all have taken this time to join me in taking an intentional break for yourself. The Coffee Break was created off of a small Instagram series that I was starting called The Mindful Mama, and I realized that it was a time that we needed for ourselves each and every day. The Coffee Break Live is something that, we take coffee breaks at work when we're in the building. So this 20 minutes is intended to give you a moment to yourself, to connect, to reflect, and just continue convos and have tips to manage the day-to-day stressors that we experience. So today I have coffee, some days I have tea, and I hope that you are drinking with me. So here we are continuing our convo from last week on managing stress and carrying on with self-compassion. We started talking about self-compassion last week in some ways that you're able to maintain it. I'm just going to continue letting people in as they show up. So to be able to have compassion, right? It's something that we extend to those around us. It's something that we extend to our friends, our family, people that we work with. And you have to recognize when you're doing this that some actual pain or suffering is existing. It involves feeling moved by others, feeling moved by their pain. And when it happens, you feel the desire to help. So it means that you also offer understanding and kindness to others when they fail or make mistakes instead of judging them. It's giving them that reassurance that they need. It's making sure that they are feeling better about what has happened. It's comforting and consoling them, right? So it helps you understand and it brings to the forefront that it's a shared human experience. It's something that they're going through, but might not just be something for them, or you're trying to normalize it for them. So self-compassion requires you to act in the same way towards yourself when you're having a difficult time as you would act towards somebody who is not yourself or outside of yourself. So as we dive into this conversation, and I want you to either share out or write in the chat box, what are some ways that you have extended your self-compassion, or some ways that you weren't too kind to yourself over the past week. So over the past week, have you extended your self-compassion or were you too hard on yourself? That's where I want us to start. So let's start thinking about that. What was a time where you were either kind to yourself or not? Feel free to dive in. And hey, everybody. So Olay shared that she's too hard on herself, rejecting or deflecting compliments and praise. Olay, thank you for sharing that, because Friday, when I was being praised and hearing all of these things that people were saying about me, I was squirming in my seat. I don't know if anybody was able to share with me or see me in the video boxes, but I was squirming because I'm one who just likes to do the work and never really give myself my own praise. And I'm working really hard on acknowledging the things that I'm doing well and things that are actually happening for and around me. So I'm glad that you shared that. Thank you. How can we give ourselves more compliments, more praise, more gratitude? Taylor said that she showed herself compassion, but as some of you may know, that is something I actively practice for my sanity. So I'm glad you said that. Showing ourselves compassion decreases our stress, it decreases our worry, and it decreases our anxiety. Dennis shared, he's too hard on himself, and sometimes my best is not good enough for me. I am my biggest critic. How many people does that statement resonate with? You are your own biggest critic. Tamar shared, I definitely don't really show myself compassion, but trying to worry less about a schedule and being more of a to-do person. I like that. It's like living in the moment. Gig and Molly shared, they echo what Dennis shared, being their own biggest critic. I hate making mistakes and I am super hard on myself. Natasha shared, I showed myself compassion by spreading out my household chores over the course of the weekend instead of trying to do everything in one day. That is a major way to show yourself compassion. Knowing that you don't have to do everything in one time and making sure that you are giving yourself the time and the grace that you need. Lilian shared that she's trying to be kind to herself as she continues to work at home and have me time without feeling selfish. That is huge. How long does it take for us to get to that space of doing things without feeling as though it's not okay? Beijing shared, yes, I had that issue in my career as an entrepreneur, as a mom, and as a friend and family member. It's in all directions. I feel that one. So as I sip my coffee, I allow myself this time where I tell my niece, my nephews, and my child, stay upstairs. This is me. This is my time for myself. This is my time to connect with other adults without children, and make sure that we're sharing things that we're going through, but also ways that we can overcome it, right? So there's 3 elements. This is twofold. There's 3 elements to self-compassion, and then there's 5 steps where you can practice self-compassion. So I'm going to do an overview of the 3 elements and then dive into them a little bit more, as well as tying into the 5 steps. Before I begin that, let's see. Belay shared, it's so weird to have a home life blend with work life all the time. Yes, it definitely is. That is suggested for people with anxiety, spread out those chores. And then Natasha shared, thanks to my therapist, it's been a process and I'm stubborn. I feel that as well. So the 3 elements to self-compassion, you have self-kindness versus judgment, you have common humanity versus isolation, and you have mindfulness versus over-identification. So with self-kindness versus self-judgment, you want to be warm and understanding to yourself when you don't feel like you're enough. So this is where those statements of I am enough, you are enough come in. It's super important to tell yourself that. It's super important to embody it and feel it, right? Being imperfect is inevitable. We're not perfect, we're human. And being gentle with yourself is important. So being imperfect is inevitable. Being gentle with yourself is important. And then once you reach that level of acceptance, there's an emotional balance called equanimity. So when you have an emotional balance of acceptance, it's called equanimity. So Dennis shared, it's so much easier for me to do that for others. I have to learn to do that for myself. And we're going to dive into that when we go over the 5 steps. So I really love that. And Molly shared, I'm really struggling with all of the tech. Can't seem to give myself any forgiveness. Spend hours doing something. It should not take so long. And I'm so angry with myself. It's not helping. I need to have self-compassion. I am not enough is all I seem to feel. It is, and thank you, Natasha, for reminding me. I actually made sure to write this all down. I did not do a slide because okay, so with the coffee break, it's touch and go. We're trying to figure out what is the best method of sharing, the best way to make sure that you guys are getting what you need. So here is the link to what I am referring to for those of you who are like me and are visual people. There we go. Hopefully it's clickable. You can copy and paste that into your web browser. So yes, continuing on, common humanity versus isolation, knowing that it is not just you who is going through something similar. So Molly, what you shared about feeling so angry with yourself and not extending the forgiveness, I think a lot of us are feeling that and spending so many hours feeling as though we should be able to finish everything that we're diving into, do all of the things that we're used to doing without fully, without mistake, without regard. We have to let that go, right? So when things don't go the way that we expect, we have a tendency to pair our frustration with isolating. We begin to think that it's only me, it's just me who's going through this. And it's only me who makes these mistakes. Self-compassion tells you that it's a shared human experience. It's not just you. You are enough. You are going to get through this. And it's something that is happening to everyone. Mindfulness versus identification. This is the 3rd element of self-compassion. It requires the balance in identifying emotions, so they're either suppressed nor exaggerated. And it allows us to observe with an openness and a clarity to bring about mindful awareness, right? So what do we think about these 3 elements? The self-kindness versus the self-judgment, the common humanity versus isolation, and the mindfulness versus over-identification. Which one do you feel like shows up for you the most out of those three elements? Or which one do you feel is most attainable for you out of those three? Feel free to speak with your mic, type in the chat. I know for me, I'm able to express the common humanity over the isolation and realize that, okay, it's not just me going through this, but I do judge myself very harshly. So Natasha, tell us a little bit more, if you don't mind sharing on your mic, why self-kindness and self-judgment resonated with you the most.
For me, I judge myself extremely. I'm really hard on myself just growing up in a Caribbean household where the expectations, especially for a young woman versus a young man, is very different. Like, young women are expected to achieve greater things than like my brothers, and I was also the only girl. So I was always extremely hard on myself when it came to like, especially my schoolwork or anything I was doing. So I judge myself, but like just through therapy, which, as you guys know, I love my therapist, Shirley, that's my girl. It just taught me to be more kind to myself and show myself more compassion, because judging myself is only going to dig a deeper hole than I'm going to have to dig myself out of. And if I am kind to myself and understand that like things, it's a process and I just need to trust the process and get through it, that I will be okay.
Yes, I love it. Trusting the process, accepting where you are, staying in a space of openness. I love it. Taylor, you said mindfulness versus isolation over identification, and Dennis, you said common humanity versus isolation. Dennis, do you want to share why that one resonated with you?
Sure. I guess going through this pandemic it really has taught me how to like connect with a lot of people. I'm seeing how all of us are experiencing the anxiety that comes along with the unknown and the uncertainty. So to help me to make sure that I am not even isolating myself to go through my own feelings and go through my own anxiety by myself. Like, I am being intentional about reaching out to family members or reaching out to friends that I haven't talked to in a while, having FaceTimes, even connecting with my roommate, making sure like we're sharing a common meal at least once a day so that like we can have a chance to like just laugh and just be human with each other, so that so we don't feel like we're going through this thing alone.
And that's super important. I love that. So we're going to dive in to the ways that we can practice self-compassion. Friday, we did a little different approach, and I wanted to make sure that we have some sticky takeaways, which we have 5 of them, and you guys can let me know what you think. So the first one is thinking about how you would treat a friend. So if you know that your friend is going through something, how do you approach your friend? How do you support your friend? What does that sound like? Somebody give me an example. Active listening. So that sounds like hearing what your friend is saying and reflecting back on what that is. Empathizing. Come on, give me more. You have a friend who's going through something. Not only a listening ear, so you're actively listening, you're reminding them of the things that they do well, so their strengths. Affirming them, reaching out, supporting however you can, being present. Okay, being present, not allowing them to isolate, right? So when we look at our friends, it's easy for us to do this. It's easy for us to show up for the people that we love. It's easy for us to show up for those people that we support. Imagine that friend is feeling badly. So we're taking it the next step, right? These are the things that you would do. If you're at your best, what would be some of the things that you say to your friend? How would your tone sound? So you're not going to be yelling at your friend. You're not going to be telling your friend that they are stupid or that the decision was dumb. You're not going to kick them while they're down. Yes, Molly, the question was, if you're at your best, what would you say to your friend and how would your tone sound? So Natasha shared compassionate and warm. Olay said, what can I do to help? Taylor said she'd be calm, warm, and loving. Tamar in true fashion would be very loving but stern.
Yeah, I agree with Tamar, Courtney. It depends on the friend because
Right.
you have different relationships with different people. Some friends, I can say some things and they automatically snap back into place because of our relationship. But
Oops.
I'm stern, especially with my best friend.
Gotcha. Okay. And I muted you for a little bit on accident, Dennis. You said you would be a little bit more stern, but I missed what you said right before that.
I said it all depends on that relationship. So definitely with my best friends, I am definitely being loving, but at the same time stern because we've built up that relationship that, you know, you don't have to front load any advice that you give to me. We've been friends for over 10 years. Shoot it to me straight. But people that I'm just developing relationships with, people that I'm just meeting, new coworkers, those people are the ones that I like front load. Like, I'm going to say some things and this is why, and let me know when I need to pull back if that's like too harsh for you.
Gotcha. So holding them accountable, but still offering them the support based on how the relationship is and coming from a place of understanding. I like that you said that too, Shannon, because now we have to apply this to ourselves, right? So we're on step 4. Step 1 was thinking about how you treat a friend. 2 was imagining that friend feeling badly, and then what would you do to support them? 3 was if you're at your best, what would you say to them? And what would you be your tone of voice, right? Natasha said, give it to me straight. That's the type of person that I am. But 4, now we're thinking about when you feel badly about yourself and when you've made a mistake or you failed, how do you speak to yourself? Are you critical? So I know a lot of us said already that we beat ourselves down. We're our worst critic. What does that voice sound like? When I do my work with my kids and I'm talking to them about their inner critic and what that sounds like, it really sounds like people beating themselves down, being hugely negative, and not letting up at all. So say, real life example, today I did not wake up at 6:15 or for my 6:15 workout again, right? And this is me working through the process honestly. And I didn't wake up for 6:15, but I was up at 6:36 because I remember looking at the phone and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna pick up and go for a run. And I did it. So should I have beat myself up about not setting the alarm last night and not diving into my workout as I intended? Or should I allow myself that grace to have said, okay, you went for a run, you still exercise, and you tried to get on with your day? So get that, I say things like, what the hell is, I'm gonna say, what the F is wrong with you? How the hell did you do that to yourself? Taylor said, I honestly don't know. I just take action to correct it. Taylor, what does that process look like to correct it? You're identifying it, but you're very action oriented in it. Natasha said, you're super critical. Olay said, it's a continuous inner monologue. And then I call a friend who will show me compassion. So you're looking, Natasha, for it externally to get you back on track. Molly related to Gig. Gig said, this is literally my conversation with myself all day. So I love it. But how can we bring these back to being less critical?
I don't think critiquing yourself could be, it could be a bad thing if you're like, everything's negative, but you have to turn a positive spin on everything. You know, how can I better myself? For me, it's always, you know, if I'm not satisfied with the product I made or baked, you know, it's just like, sometimes it's okay, like, let's go back a few steps, or even let's start over. Let's just scrap it and start over. So, and I feel like sometimes when we're being critical on ourselves in our personal lives, like, you know, if you're getting frustrated with work, sometimes it's okay to, you know, stop, walk away for a second, take a breath, and, you know, come back to it with a fresh, you know, set of eyes.
I really like that you said that, because you're talking about taking a step back and reflecting on it and being mindful on what was happening to lead you to that point. So
and
how
also
mm-hmm.
too is like getting a fresh set of eyes, as also asking somebody else's opinion. Like, am I thinking too much about this? Like, am I going too far? Like, and majority of the time it says yes, you know. So it takes another person to say, hey, yeah, no, you don't need this extra whipped cream or what, you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
so asking for help.
Yeah, like just ask for a friend. Phone a friend.
Phone a friend. I love that. So we're gonna bring it to step 5, right? Thinking about, which some of you have already shared, thinking about how you would sound speaking to yourself if you spoke to yourself the same way that you talk to your friend. What would that sound like? So Gig, I would actually like, and Gig, I'm choosing you because I want to push you a little bit because of how you asked the what's wrong with you question and how did I do that to myself. What would you say to a friend? Would it be the same thing? Would it be a what's wrong with you?
So I'm gonna just be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is like for real honest. And this is something that I've been working on since about January. So this is really bad what I'm about to say, but I'm about to just say it. If I don't ask them that, then I probably already think that there is something wrong. And I'm just being real. It's and I mean that's just being judgmental. And I'm really trying to stop.
That's
it's
honest
so
though.
hard, though. It's so hard because it's like once my mind is made up about a person or a thing, it's like this is who you are, and it's so bad. I know, but I do the literal exact same thing to myself. I'll call them gig-isms, or I say like only Gig would do this. Like it's only like Gig. It's only you would do something like that.
Right.
Like something actually happened yesterday where I was so mad. I'll just tell you real quick. I lost my glasses. I cannot find them. I was beating myself up for an hour. It was really, really bad. But yeah, I do it to myself and I do it to other people. And I'm really trying to stop, but it's a work in progress.
That's very honest and transparent. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. So Sonia, I know you just joined in, but I feel like both you and Tamar do a really good job of being compassionate while holding people accountable. So what are some ways that you show compassion, not only to yourself, but to other people?
Ooh.
Mm.
Interesante.
I love it.
I don't know. I like to send like little messages with inspirational quotes. Sometimes just saying, hey, I'm here. Sometimes I send like messages of affirmation, you know, saying, oh, I'm so proud of you for X, Y, and Z when I see that someone has been stepping it up. Is that what you mean?
Yes, exactly. Because you do a great job of it. So how do you apply that to yourself?
Well, so I usually like, let me see. So I like to reward myself here and there with some rest. I'm big on like rest as I get older, you know, for some reason. I have always been like a pinball, bing, everywhere with the energy that I've had. And so lately in the last year or so, I've been learning to like mellow and calm down and try not to be so crazy because I know that I had an undiagnosed hyper disorder. I know that for a fact because I've never been able to like stay still. So that's something that I'm doing for myself. I also think that when like Tamar or Gig or somebody gives me like words of affirmation, it gives me like this little push.
Yes.
You know, okay, I'm doing things right. You know. Anyway, so that's
I love it. Thank you. I love it. Tamar, we've had some tougher days in the morning times. How have you turned those days around for yourself?
So for me, the morning is, I've actually realized, so I guess I had to recognize I I don't like Lucas to wake me up. Let's just call it what it is, right? The only person that's gonna wake me up early is my son. And so I've taken it upon to put my alarm earlier so that I can wake up myself and have that morning time. And so for me, that's a very crucial and essential to like grounding myself in the day. But like you said, sometimes the morning doesn't go that way, right? Sometimes I put that alarm and Lucas wakes up 10 minutes later. So I definitely do have the advantage that my son will take a 2-hour nap throughout the day, no matter what. And so those 2 hours for me, I make sure that at least one of them, because while I immediately want to go to, oh my gosh, I can get so much work done. I definitely, of those 2 hours, I at least try to take 30 minutes to myself, whether it's to fuel my spirit or to work on myself physically. And so, yeah, like those are my moments of like knowing how to reground myself.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. So as we wrap up for today, I'm realizing that tomorrow we need to have a conversation on how do we make our inner voice more positive. So it's one thing to hold ourselves accountable and reflect and be able to make sure that we are correcting whatever went wrong. But then it's another thing to come back and say, you ain't shit, or you're not doing what you need to do, and internalizing that and making it what it is. There's ways to motivate ourselves to be more positive to ourselves while also still doing that for other people. So as we close out, I want you to take away how you will be kind to yourself today and for the rest of this week, and then come back tomorrow so we could do it all over and work on improving our inner voice. Definitely take a look at, for those of you who are visual, click on the link and copy the link into your browser so you can check on these steps. But you want to always keep in mind how you talk to your friends when they need a helping hand and how you support them, and apply that to yourself. Thank you for coming to today's coffee break. I appreciate you all and hope that you will tune in again tomorrow. See you then.